Hello everybody and welcome to this week's edition of This Ain't Fake Brother. It is the 3rd of September, our very first show in September ever. How about that?
Wow.
Our first ever
news,
September show.
Right there.
Incredible. History making. And this is going to be a history making show in the sense that
You
myself...
sound like Michael Cole, by the way, with the history making.
You got to put the product over.
You do, yeah.
I'm not going to do that
The
nauseam.
historical element of it.
Yeah, myself and Ken agreed before the show started that this might be an interesting one because I have nothing good to say about anything.
No, the thing is, I don't even have as much bad to say about anything either. I just have nothing to say, you know what I mean?
We'll do our best though.
Yeah.
As a podcast host.
Yeah, I'll try and be a professional.
Okay, right, let's get to some of the news. We're going to do news, Raw Report. We're going to talk about some of the other wrestling podcasts that people listen to. And we're going to do our classic review, which I picked.
Just before you jump in, Neil,
Yeah.
one piece of news. It's not really news, but one thing that I think we should discuss is the fact that the network subscriptions are up this week. I've been getting emails left, right, and centre from WWE saying resubscribe. Although notably, they haven't actually cut me off yet. So, have you?
Have I been cut off?
Or have you gotten emails asking you to? Oh no, you subscribed a lot later than me, didn't you? You didn't subscribe when they started.
No.
Yeah, because those of us who subscribed when the network first launched are now at the point where we need to renew, and it's a very interesting time because I think there's a lot of people a lot more people than we originally thought who were going to just go, fuck this and let it lapse.
Yeah.
Unless they have a desperation to see a lot of 1990s Nitro, you know?
I signed up for Backlash, or whatever the equivalent of that is, Extreme Rules.
Yeah.
So, I'm coming up there, haven't I? I'll be there this time next month.
What's that, end of April, so end of October? So
Yeah.
you've still got 6 to 7 weeks.
All right, stoops. We're also going to... Yeah, so In Your House 6 is the review, the classic review, and I apologise.
Yeah, classic isn't much of a... Oh, it's my pick this week, and I haven't picked it, interestingly, for the first time in a long time.
Oh, this is... well, you'll have enough time to think about it, seeing as how you're planning on not talking. How are you this week, by the way?
I'm splendid, actually. Had a really nice day. Yeah, enjoyed myself.
Good. Were you in work?
No, I was not in work. I don't work on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, Neil. It's splendid.
That's
I'll talk you through my days because that'll be more interesting than anything
Is that
else.
why JBL held the title for a year?
That is why JBL the title. I woke up and I spent 3 hours with my daughter watching Monday Night Raw while she was in the kitchen watching In the Night Garden, a splendid children's program.
You would have swapped in a heartbeat.
I would have, absolutely, yeah. It made more sense. Then we went and spent a couple hours in the playground.
Ah, yeah.
Came home, the Baba went to bed for about 2.5 hours, so I popped a fizzy fella and watched a film. What film did I watch? I watched a classic that I'd never seen before. Oh, American Psycho.
You've never seen American Psycho?
I think I had when I was like, 12, 13, when it first came out.
It's pretty, it's pretty memorable.
It's an interesting film, yeah.
Very interesting.
So, yeah.
So for those who don't know what fizzy fellas are, they're called they're called Salpadines.
Salpadine, yeah.
Okay, so
Don't use it for more than 3 days consecutively, folks, or it will be addictive. I can attest.
The news this week we're going to talk about now. Daniel Bryan and Wade Barrett were reportedly going to be on the European tour that starts on the 5th of November. We said last week that this was kind of incredible. Whether or not Bryan would be wrestling by then was pretty much a guarantee he wouldn't. But it looks about right for the time that Barrett would be scheduled to return. WWE have now come out and said neither of them are going to be there.
Good advertising there.
Presumably Barrett is still in with the shout of getting there, no?
I guess not. But you know they're there now. It's very different to how it was back in the day where guys were all rushed back. Now it's only the tippy top guys who are rushed back from injuries. Everybody else is delayed. I mean, how many times has Christian kind of come back from an injury 6 months after he's ready?
Where is Christian?
I don't know. Is he? Can he wrestle?
Oh, yeah.
He's being phased out though, so it's like Ray was, you know. But I think they want Christian too.
I swear to God, when we talk about Raw, what I would have given in the second hour to have a Christian match over anything we got.
Why can't guys like Christian have a role like a Goldust? Just put him in a tag team with, I don't fucking know. You've got to have somebody in the roster. I don't know, Jack Swagger in a heel tag team, the two of them.
Is it just because he's been injured so much that they're not even going to bother trying again?
Yeah, but you know the way Vince is. When somebody gets to be like 38, 39, he just puts them out to pasture, you know?
Yeah, I do indeed. SmackDown is officially moved to Thursdays. So
that's much handier for me because then I can not watch it on a Thursday instead of not watching it on a Friday.
I've unfortunately become the same, and I feel bad about it.
Do you not watch it now?
No.
Oh, that makes me so happy about my life, Neil. I don't know how
Really?
you put yourself through 5 hours of that product every week.
I very rarely did. I'm always doing stuff while I have SmackDown on. Oh, SmackDown was good for now. See, SmackDown is a lot less produced.
I know what you mean. But the issue for
sometimes
me
you
is
get some funny stuff on it.
there's good wrestling on Raw as well, but if wrestling is good, but I see no purpose to any of it, then we'll touch on this when we discuss Raw. But I was so frustrated watching how in the Miz Ziggler feud, Ziggler is clearly going to give Miz a title shot because he's won non-title matches, whereas say with Natty Neidhart that doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then say in the tag division it seems like you turn heel, that's how you get a title shot. It's just I can't say any rhyme or reason for how this works. So it's just men having matches, and some of them are really good. Like I always say, Sheamus is the archetypal guy in the last year. Sheamus has so many good matches. No problem with his work, but I just think, fuck, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. And speaking of the rhyme or reason in terms of who gets picked as number one contender, the Divas title now is just hit the absolute shitter. It just nothing makes sense. We'll touch on. We'll
been
touch
hovering
on that.
the rim there for a while. That actually was the segment that set off that whole top pattern, and I'd forgotten it. But we'll talk about that. In a while.
Absolutely. Ryback, speaking of people who are out of action at the moment or out of commission, he's taken some time off. The big guy's taking time off. He sent out a pretty cryptic tweet saying that he had to go home for a while, and then in the tweet he said, "Sorry, punk."
Yeah. The thing about Ryback's tweets, do you follow his Twitter at all? He tweets to get attention. Do you know what I mean?
He's fucking hilarious. Like
he is, but I mean, but then when people start when you see some of his tweets and being reported on the news or the Z sites that you spend half your days on, Neil.
Yeah, I don't go on any of them.
Okay, anyway, the point is, you just can't pay any attention to anything he says. He's a minor injury, it's no biggie.
But what was the sorry punk thing about?
He also had a photo of him putting Punk through a table. Did you see that?
Why?
No, sorry. He had a photo of a Ryback action figure putting Punk through a table, a Punk action figure, and it was in reference to an injury he gave Punk in their feud.
That's right. Do you remember that? When he pressed him through the table was straight like that. It wasn't like this. And he literally pressed Punk, and Punk went like completely like horizontally through it.
Great radio here.
It killed him dead. And that's when he said the famous line, "Bowley." Instead of bully. He goes, "That's what happens to bowlies."
Okay.
You don't remember this fucking thing?
No.
It's the best thing Ryback ever did.
No, the best thing I ever did was that great last man standing match with Cena.
Okay, I'm going to link you to this,
okay,
and you can give us a full breakdown of it next week. Speaking of CM Punk, he's a very angry man. Obviously, he had a closed wedding ceremony with AJ Lee a couple of months back, and now that he's out of the WWE spotlight, he would like his personal life to be very, very private. Unfortunately, a photo of the two of them in wedding regalia was leaked, and somebody tweeted it to him, and he said, "Don't you dare." He says, "Anybody who dares tweets me that picture will get blocked only because I can't punch you in your fucking face, you filthy pig." I think was something along those lines. And he's a very angry man, is Phil.
Can I just say this to him? Go fuck yourself. Like, I'm so sick of CM Punk and his holier than thou. I'm too good for this product, so I'm going home. And he's too cool for everything. Have you ever followed him on Twitter?
Oh, I know he's too cool for everything.
And this is a guy who I had such admiration for as a performer, and I was always pulling for him. Like, how much of his fucking merch have I bought over the years? But he just comes across like such a fucking douchebag.
He does indeed. RVD is
that
also,
wedding, that marriage is all going into tears, by the way.
How come? Why do you think this?
She's a kid. She's just easily influenced, and she's 25, 26. He's about a decade older than her. Mm-hmm. And
that is a recipe for disaster. But
it is, and also I think she's still very much into the business, and I could see. You see, Jim Ross predicted she's going to wrap up soon.
Yeah,
I
what
think.
Does he know?
I don't know, but I think that she probably will in the next 6 to 9 months.
Do you think he'll make her jaded about it?
And what I think is at some point she'll want to come back, and that'll cause a rift.
That's a really interesting diagnosis of the relationship there, Ken.
Here's a dude who's been through fucking. I mean, you might know better than me, but he was with Beth Phoenix. He was with Maria Kanellis.
This is what I was about to ask you, man. He's been with so many of them.
Who else? Let's do the list here, because I'm sure there's people I'm missing.
Okay, he was with
Lita.
He was obviously
Beth,
with Lita.
Maria.
Yeah. I think he was with. Juan Martinez was with Dave. It's kind of hard. Him and Dave were really like going strong from like 06 to 010.
Neck and neck.
Yeah, neck and birds.
Cock and cock. But yeah, the point is he's gone. He goes through them like fucking hot knife through butter.
So how come he not only did he obviously settle with AJ, but he settled mighty quick.
Very quickly. Yeah, that's the point.
So what's cracking?
I don't know. I just don't buy it. I just think he's in a time in his life where he wants to settle down, so it's convenient for him. You know.
Yeah.
She probably sells his stuff in the bedroom, and so he thinks he sells stuff. So
Do you think
he does punch him with his weight though? He is kind of an ugly fuck. Let's be honest.
in terms of the wrestling landscape, he's tremendously charismatic, and he's by no means bad looking.
Yeah,
so
no,
he's
I know.
got
Well,
it.
this is how it works with women. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily looks wise. Thank the Lord above.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be interesting. I was seeing that picture that came out of the the little drawing of Lita, AJ meeting Lita, and then AJ.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think was that made available to the locker room before or after he left?
I couldn't tell you that.
I think it was before.
I think it was before as well. Yeah.
Interesting. RVD's finished up with the company. He's booked on an indie, and he wasn't on Raw this week, so I think it's pretty much confirmed. The most
Huge loss
absolute unremarkable run of his career, poor fella.
Yeah.
Even when he came into TNA and got hit in the head with a chair by Sting, who was also wearing a Sting mask.
Yeah.
You know.
Let me explain it to people. There was somebody in the crowd in the front row of CNA taping who looked exactly like Sting, wearing a Sting mask, who hit Rob Van Dam with a chair when he was going around doing his high five with the fans, and then took off the Sting mask to reveal Sting, which was quite something, I have to say.
Jake Roberts, on a sadder part of the news, was hospitalized this week. He was trying to make a shot in Las Vegas, and
Not a shot of booze.
No, he was trying to make a indie date, and he started feeling unwell on the plane. Reports were that he passed out on the plane. That then came out as untrue. He was taken to hospital, where then he was induced into a coma, and he was diagnosed with double pneumonia and
I have a question.
a brain. How do they put it?
How do you have double
Abnormality.
pneumonia?
Because you have two lungs.
Really? Okay, that's the
fuck-
gimmick. I always thought pneumonia meant you had it in both. I'm married to a nurse, by the way. I could have asked her this question, but I just thought you'd know.
She's not selling your shit, clearly.
No, apparently not.
That's incredible. Yeah. So this is really bad. This is just one of those things where I have this philosophy, just in
Brendan
general.
Rogers sitting across the table from me.
Galvanizing our podcast. No, my philosophy is that you look at people like Iggy Pop, and you look at like Keith Richards, and you look at Ozzy Osbourne, you look at Lemmy, right? These guys that should be dead. And there's a huge comparison between
Keith
their
Richards should be dead, and Mick Jagger.
not Jagger. Jagger was never into much.
Was he not?
Not like more than most. But like Keith Richards fell off a coconut tree a few years ago and had brain surgery. He's still grand. It's just ridiculous.
I didn't know
And
that.
there's a lot of parallels, obviously, with their lifestyle and pro wrestlers of the 80s and 70s and stuff like that. And I just think that a lot of the reason that these guys are still going is because they're on very similar diets, and they still have a few scoops and stuff like that. Their body is just used to this one way of producing
I
fuel.
understand what you mean, yeah.
And I think, you do see it happen when guys are like, look
When
at
they
Rick,
get clean,
look at Rick Rude 99.
It all falls apart.
Exactly. And I would hate to think that poor old Jake is going to be trapped by something as simple as, well, simple, I don't mean to, because I know it's a very serious illness, but the idea that pneumonia would get Jake after he's lived healthy for a year is very sad.
Yeah, I do think there is something to that. I always remember when I used to drink heavily in my younger days, as you recall, Neil.
Yeah.
When I got off the booze for a couple of years there, within sort of 6 months, I had some serious liver problems and was at a liver specialist and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. It's like your body is an incredible thing.
Yeah,
and
it
it's an
adapts.
organism. It does. And if you're used to the diet, even though the diet might be classed as a bad diet, you don't feel the effects until you stop.
Oh, I know. It's kind of like when as well. I've relatively poor diet, and when my wife and I sometimes go on like juice diets or going crazy, and then that's when my body is fucked when I'm eating the good stuff.
Yeah, you've got because you're
Give me processed foods, please.
Yeah, you're not burning the same fats and sugars,
Yeah.
and that's what you're used to. Like that's when you feel peaked. No, it's absolutely it. But I'll be very sad for Jake. He's still in hospital as of this recording.
Yeah, but I think today there was another update saying that he's kind of breathing better and stuff, and Jake will pull through.
It was reported in the Observer newsletter this week that the current idea for Fergal Devitt's ring name is Fergal.
That's very inventive, isn't it, Neil?
Surely they can't.
Surely they can.
It's not Buddy Peacock bad, but he's not going to really have many great shakes with the name Fergal. Although Seamus is better. Fergal. It's just a bit plain, isn't it?
It's a bit shit, really. Yeah.
Okay. Cena, I can't remember what magazine this was in. It was a fitness magazine anyway. But there was an article ran with John Cena where he actually said he has a heel run in him, and he thinks he could be very, very innovative and creative with it.
Sure, he could.
And I'm sure he could too. But he said that they have no intention of doing it, and he does what they say. And he says he can't see it happening.
Yeah, I think the only thing will be if the day comes where the merch dries up. But But at the moment, I mean, they make more money off his merch than they do off everyone else's merch.
10 million a year.
Yeah, it's, you know.
That's like
you
people.
Can't you just can't do it.
Just all I'd say to people is look at the profit and loss margins for WWE over the last 5 years, and it's now more than ever. 10 million is actually, you might think like they're a gigantic company, but 10 million is a huge amount to them, especially now.
Especially
more
when
than
they're
ever.
bleeding money, like we've discussed.
So the reason I brought that up though is I don't ever remember Cena going on record before saying that he kind of, you know, would be interested in it or that he had it in him. Was
no,
the
yeah, I
exact
always
quote.
thought he was like Goldberg or Bret Hart, where he wanted to be the hero, but
Yeah.
maybe he'd like to have one. I don't think we'll see him retire without ever being a heel.
Really?
Or at least I think they could do a thing where he, I don't know if you remember, you know, kind of around the time of the classic review we're going to talk about later, Diesel, after he kind of turned on Bret at Survivor Series 95, when he kind of came out and said, if you're wearing the black glove, I'll slap your hand. If you're not, then, you know, it was kind of like, those who are with me, I'm with you, but if you're not with me, F you.
Yeah.
And you could kind of see Cena tweaking it so that he's still loyal to his own fan base,
Yeah.
but he, you know, kind of turns those who boo him, he kind of goes back at, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think that way you could, it's almost like the Bret Hart babyface in Canada and heel in the US kind of thing, you know?
Okay, so that was pretty much the news. Anything else, Ken, off the top of your head that we didn't mention?
I would love to think of something so we could delay discussing this horrible episode of Monday Night Raw, but
I'll give you something really quick, and it was unfortunately another horrible thing. I saw the Brodus Clay shoot interview that he did with kayfabe
Jesus.
commentaries.
You're some fucking motherfucker putting time
Thank
into
you.
this shit. Like,
Well, listen,
I'm actually seeing the advertisement for it on the Figure 4 Weekly website right here while I've got the Raw report open.
I was interested because, off the top of my head, the last people within current WWE who got released that, like,
Outside L didn't he?
that I was interviewed in, he did. I actually didn't see that.
Must be quite interesting. I keep seeing snippets coming out.
Okay, I'm going to have a look at that. I saw the Bella Twins one, and that was kind of interesting before they came back.
Really?
But yeah, it actually was. But
What did they have to say for themselves?
Oh, I can't remember now. They were talking about, obviously, you know, the usual kind of Fit Finley, blah, blah, blah. Who did they speak bad about? I can't remember. But the thing was, anyway.
Maria Kanellis?
Yes. The point about Brodus was, it was the most political shoot interview I've ever seen. He would not answer. The one closest, and this will say it all, the closest thing that it came to a kind of something you hadn't heard before, or the admission of not being a complete and utter saint, was they talked about an incident that happened in Germany, where he supposedly like destroyed a hotel room and stuff like that on the European tour. And there was a locker room meeting called with him that Cena was the kind of judge of. So Cena's taken that role, supposedly.
Right.
And that supposedly Brodus gave such a ridiculously long and bad explanation that they let him off. But I never heard that even reported that he had an incident in Germany or anything like that.
Me either.
Yeah, there's just, it was just, go out of your way to avoid it. Now, if you already haven't avoided Monday Night Raw.
It won't be difficult for me to avoid it, don't worry.
I was saying it to the listeners as well. Okay. If you haven't gone out of your way to avoid Monday Night Raw, I just say listen to this and make up your own mind. It was Labor Day. They were in Des Moines, Iowa, hometown of Seth Rollins. And this.
Sorry, I actually think it's pronounced Des Moines, Iowa.
Did somebody actually say that?
No. That's the most music thing I'm going to say in this entire review.
Oh, don't leave me hanging. Okay.
By the
So
way, I think I heard Jericho on his podcast. Right? You love my interrupting you gimmick, don't you?
my
Neil's
favourite,
face just dropped. Jericho was.
I want to get through this as well. Okay.
He had a guest on his podcast, and he's talking about the glamour of working in certain buildings, and I think he mentioned like Chicago, New York, and he said, as opposed to say, I don't know, Des Moines, Iowa, and this was only about a month ago, and here he is in Des Moines, Iowa.
I
It
know.
just kind of amused me.
They do throw some cities under the bus on the podcast, and I don't
I couldn't
think
believe
they
they actually
notice it.
mentioned Des Moines. You know, they've into this thing where if they're not in a big enough city,
Yeah.
then
Des
what a
Moines
stupid
is-
name for a city, by the way, Des Moines.
So they were in the stupid city of Des Moines, and it was open. The show was opened by the highlight reel with Jericho. It was cold open straight in. They had advertised him interviewing Randy for the last week. It was the only thing that was advertised for this show.
So of course didn't happen.
Exactly. He calls out Randy, and the entire authority come out minus Stephanie. So that was Triple H, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, and Corporate Kane in 4 black suits, looking pretty sharp. They got in the ring, and Triple H and Jericho started exchanging insults. This featured like a little bit of ad-lib where Triple H took the piss out of Jericho's scarf. Jericho then cut off Triple H, which seemed kind of like out of the blue, and gave out about his pink tie. Triple H looked stumped while the crowd popped for this, and then came back with an amazing, "It's Violet, you Nimrod."
Yeah, I enjoyed the Nimrod.
The Triple H made some unbelievable gaffes during this fucking thing.
Did he?
And he's incredible usually. He called it the WWE at one stage. He called Kane the Demon Kane.
Yeah, I noticed that. He said
you?
in the match it was going to be the Demon Kane, so I was expecting him in the gimmick.
Yeah. And he also called Brock Lesnar Brock Cena.
I thought he was referring to the match when he said
No,
Brock
because
Cena.
he goes, and this would be an opportunity to face
Face
Brock.
Brock Cena, yeah.
That is the match.
That's but I thought he meant like the winner. I thought that was just an offhand, but yeah, you're right. Actually, that's strange.
So after
You're right. Actually, now that I think about it, yeah.
It's nuts. So after they started exchanging these things, they were Triple H basically mentioned the idea that he'd watched the Brock Lesnar John Cena match from SummerSlam plenty of times. This gave opportunity for lots of $9.99 plugs.
Jericho got involved, which was just weird.
Jericho got involved. He was trying to do it in a smart ass way, but it just Cena actually had the best one when it came to plugging the network without it seeming completely and utterly gut wrenchingly sick. But Triple H said that he was considering a new opponent for Brock Lesnar. Maybe John Cena wasn't worthy. Everybody threw their name into the hat. Randy said he should get it. Kane said he should get it, which was just Kane's verbiage. What did he say? There's one word he said, and he almost mispronounced it. And for Kane, he's a good orator, you know?
He is a good orator, yeah.
But it was the shits. And then Seth said, well, you know, there's always a plan B. He had his briefcase. And Jericho put his name to the hat. And then as Jericho was giving the rundown of why he would be worthy, John Cena, of course, came out. This led to John Cena, you know, basically saying he would sue Triple H. This was the most...
This was stupid.
It was very stupid. It was the most they've ever exposed Cena in a way. Do you know what I mean? They never usually have Cena do something that I would think a John Cena fan would go, that's not like you, John.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And this was it, wasn't it?
I think whenever he mentioned a lawsuit in a wrestling show as well. Do you remember when Paul Heyman said he would sue Triple H if Triple H ever touched him, and then Triple H beats him up and Heyman does nothing? I
do.
You know, anyway.
So Triple H kind of took the piss out of Cena for this and said that he would have to see it proven. They got on to then basically Reigns came out after Orton said that if he was here he would leave him lying. So you had the three baby faces standing off against the three heels, Hunter in the middle, and he said that they were going to have a 6-man tonight, and whoever impressed him most would perhaps get a title shot. Now this was so weird because throughout the rest of the show they were constantly advertising Brock versus Cena. And we'll talk about this at the end, Ken, but we're leading into a very important pay-per-view for them because the network subscriptions are up. We've talked about this on other shows. One, I can't believe that with the network subscriptions coming due and them trying to sell this pay-per-view that they produce such a bad show. But what I really can't believe is they clearly think the main hook to get people to resubscribe is the rematch between Brock and Lesnar.
Yep.
Brock and Lesnar. I fucking did a Triple H. Between Brock and Cena, right?
Yep.
So why in the name of God would they spend an entire show flirting with the idea that that match isn't going to happen?
Because they needed to fill the time. It was just so weird because they need to do tonight what they done, or not even tonight. They need to be on the way to doing next week what they'd actually done last week. So the problem was last week they did what they needed to do in the go-home show. So now they have to fill a few weeks of television, which is awkward for them because they don't have Cena. They don't have Lesnar, rather. So it just was silly.
It was absolutely terrible. As the heels left the ring, Seth came in from behind with the briefcase, tried to attack Reigns. He got punched, and then Reigns threw the briefcase at him, and Seth did sell it very well. When Seth was on the mic here, he was obviously cheered as a babyface because they were in Iowa. And when him and Reigns were going at it in the ring, Reigns was booed. This was something... So two very strange things. Given Cena pretty much wimpy dialogue, and having Reigns be exposed as the guy... I can't believe it wasn't Triple H, you know?
Yep.
But then again, I suppose maybe they're just trying to be consistent, and it seems to me like they're going with Reigns and Rollins for the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think that's...
And they're going with Randy and Jericho.
That's what I've thought, yeah, for a while.
Because they're blowing off Jericho and Bray next week on Raw in a cage match. That was advertised.
Yeah, I presume Randy cost him a match or something.
So how come this 3 pay-per-view run of Bray and Jericho... they've just... This is the end of Bray.
I knew after the SummerSlam match that it wasn't...
Going to be 3?
3, yeah.
How?
Because in the SummerSlam, their match was just dead, and...
in this one.
So I just felt like they weren't going to do another one.
All right. Okay. Very good. A lot of people very tanned on this show. If you notice, Cena was more tanned than usual. I was very distracted by this. We had Miz and Cesaro against the IC and
It's
US.
funny, they were all tanned and I was just browned off.
We had Miz and Cesaro. I have to get a soundboard for this stuff. I'm working on it. I'm also working on Skype line as well. Okay. Miz and Cesaro defeated Ziggler
Mizarro.
Ziggler and Sheamus, the IC and US title compadres. I thought this was the best thing on the show.
Yeah, but it was still useless.
I really like Cesaro was basically nicking all of Ziggler's moves. He was doing the multiple elbow drops. He did the really high Dolph drop kick, and stuff like that. So Cesaro was just great. Miz had Sandow and a makeup artist on the outside. So every time he was also wearing his sunglasses on the apron. This was like Miz was, how this means come from me. Miz was the best thing on this show, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
He had his sunglasses on when he was on the apron. He kept getting makeup touch-ups. The finish basically saw him send Sandow in to distract Ziggler. Sandow, by the way, he's really letting himself go.
I noticed that so badly.
X are just gone.
And he's so white.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit.
Why would he, to be fair?
But he seems to give a shit when he's on TV, but I think he knows what his gig is now. So
Charlie Haas 2.0.
Exactly. Ziggler gave him the zigzag, and then Miz snuck up from behind with skull-crushing finale. That was it. Now, we had these horrible segments playing throughout the entire show of Nikki Bella talking about why Brie was such a bitch. They had 3 of these. It was called Growing Up Bella. The first one, she spoke about her prom date, who she really, really liked, being seen with Brie in a parking lot at the end of the night.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So that was the first one. As these went on, I started to think that they were actually real and it was all stuff that Nikki had done to Brie, but they didn't reveal that.
Why did you think that?
Because she seems like the more intelligent. So I would presume that
Who seems more intelligent?
Brie. So I presume that she passed her driving test. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Then we had Ken. Okay, so the match is Layla, Naomi, and Summer Rae against Rose Mendes, Eva Marie, and Cameron. Now, Rose Mendes, Eva Marie, and Cameron is the worst trio of all time. In the history of WWE, I think that's safe to say. People are saying this match is the worst match in the history of Raw, besides Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump.
Well, it's one of those 60-second matches that just washes over me.
Why do people think it was so bad? There was a botched Irish whip in this match by Eva Marie.
I don't know, because people... I mean, it probably was a horrendously worked match, but I mean, what do you want with Rosa Mendez and Eva Marie? It's just... I always remember a match on NXT between Caitlyn and Maxine when... Do you know this match?
No.
Well, anyway, it was as bad a match as I can ever remember seeing, other than Jenna Maraska and Sharmell. And none of the stuff was as bad as that. But I mean, it is what it is. It doesn't offend me. I mean, it's just garbage, but whatever.
I would go out of your way to see this. It's only a minute, as Ken said. Then we had Henry and Big Show against Harper and Rowan. They were building this up for the entire first hour. It ended up being the main event of the first hour.
Listen.
It had happened last week.
And also, though, did you notice that in the graphic and on the mic, they were pushing it as over 1,400 pounds of humanity?
That's right.
Which is just such a Vince McMahon line, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah, it's all Vince.
Push the humanity. Oh, God damn it.
100 pounds of humanity. Yeah, it's quite incredible. Let's see. The finish I saw. Big Show was just sloppy as shit in this match as well. He was literally missing.
It was 11 minutes. I just didn't need to go more than 5.
No, he was missing things by miles. The finish saw Mark Henry pick up Rowan for the World's Strongest Slam, and Rusev came in and gave him a super kick. Now, this is interesting because we thought last week they hadn't followed up on Henry and Rusev, but it seems that we're back doing this. I think that they had a vision the week after SummerSlam, and I think everything's been thrown up in the air, and they just decided to scrap a lot of ideas. But this is back on anyway, it seems, and this wasn't the last time we'd see Rusev. In fact, we saw him 2 segments from now, which was really strange. Growing Up Bella Part 2.
The Harpers are dead now, aren't they?
I think they're more over than Bray.
Well, yeah.
I really do.
They should just call themselves the Harpers.
The Harpers. Their entrance is still great. Anyway,
I don't know what this music is. Just stop it.
What, the slide guitar?
Whatever the fuck it is, it just annoys me.
It's pretty good. It's better than that working music they had that one week.
They had a series of awful music, didn't they?
They sure did. Okay, so Growing Up Bella. For some reason, this name, Growing Up Bella.
It's just garbage, like.
Okay.
I've said that word a lot tonight, haven't I?
Garbage. Hot garbage. This was one where...
Warm swill, I prefer to call this.
Nikki told a story about Brie failing her driver's license while she passed it. Their man bought them a car. Then one day, Bree, who had to be driven around by Nikki all the time, decided to take the car for herself, crashed the car, but gave the police officer Nikki's license. Oh yeah, she kept ending this with, but I never told her. I hate this feud!
But I never told anyone that story until today. Listen, do you reckon that this car crash was real? Not in the context she told it, but that they actually had a car crash in that Civic. Because those
Piper's been in 1,000 of them.
No, 10,000 car crashes, 7 matches, Neil.
Piper's been in 7. If Piper had anything to do with it, then yes, the car crash was. I do know, honestly, right? I think these stories are real, and I think that it was.
I don't think the one about Bree stealing Dominic Cruz and having sex with him.
But they referenced that last week in their in-ring as well.
Anyway, Paul Heyman came out and did a promo. Paul Heyman's dyeing his hair now. Have you noticed that?
He's been doing it a while, man.
Has he? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first one I really noticed. My boss is dyeing his hair as well, which is so transparent to me, and I think it's the same kind of just for men gimmick that he's got.
I thought it was black. Go on.
So he came out and he talked about John Cena getting the title shot, even though right now John Cena wasn't getting the title shot with the guy next to the show. He said that, that Cena will definitely put on a good show, blah, 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 but Lesnar's going to beat him. I mean, I know they want to keep Lesnar alive on the show he's not on, but this felt fairly pointless.
It says it all about a bad Raw that even Paul Heyman's promo, it was just nothing.
Uninspired is the word.
Absolutely. Have you noticed? See, this bad run of shows started when they switched the fucking logo. But
hang on a sec though. It did, yeah, but they always have a bad run between August and January. And if you'll know this, Neil, remember since 2010, I will take periods where if the show is bad, I just stop watching, and I can't do it because I've locked myself in this podcast. But this is prime. This show is horrendous. There's no point in watching it territory.
Oh yeah,
and
tell me about it. I gave up on it last night. I had to break my balls to see the rest of it today, but last night I just couldn't do it. I like watching them on Monday night, so I can
stay till 4 o'clock in the morning.
Don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
Christ, I struggle to get through it on a Tuesday morning. Speaking of mediocrity, Jackie Swagger beat Curtis Axel. He had Zeb back. They had a 1-star match, and then they did a segment that you can talk about the segment because I don't want to.
Oh yeah, okay. So Bo's on top of the ramp, and he has 3 nitwits with him. 2 chicks and a guy, 2 guy and chicks, 2 guys and a chick. So he that was a bit of a slooplex. So he basically says this is 3 of the 318 million people that Jack let down when he lost to Swagger. He said one guy was a farmer and bet all his savings on Swagger winning and lost them. He said another guy was so distraught that he failed his immigration test to get into the country, which was the best part of it all, because cut to Zeb, who was shouting, "Get him out, get him out." So there's a good bit of continuity there with Zeb, even though he's a babyface. And I was, because when he brought up immigration, I was like, please cut to Zeb. And then what did he say about the chick? What was wrong with her?
Her son now worships Vladimir Putin instead of Jack Swagger,
and they put Putin up on the thing. He got them all to stand up. I
thought this was so cheap that the best they could think of was, we better find a way for Bo to use Putin as well. And then I'm not letting you say what Bo's final line was because I detest it so much.
That's fine. So basically, Bo kind of taking the piss out of the We the People, got them all to stand up and say his catchphrase, the Believe thing.
Except no one did.
No, the 3 behind him did, but they were paid to do so.
Yes.
Just remember, we've had a Growing Up Ella segment, a bad Paul Heyman promo, Jack Swagger versus Curtis Axel, and what was next?
Adam Rose.
Adam Rose is back on Raw, and this time he's fighting Titus O'Neil. This was horrid.
Poor Titus. This is what happens when you're friends with Dave Bautista.
That's right. Big Dave wants to go on a run with him, but the story of this match is that Slate is all about basically Heath and Titus. Heath is on the outside the ring trying to cheerleader, and then the bunny, who is part of Rose's Rosebud entourage, started laying into Slater when Slater tried to interfere. This distracted Titus, who then lost.
There's rumours that this bunny was Sami Zayn. I hope to God that's not how they introduce him.
That would kill a man.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
That would kill a man, and any momentum you could have. The final Growing Up Ella, she told a story about it. She had to sit Bree's that's why I thought it was the other way around. That she had to sit Bree's exams for her because Bree was
an idiot
and being threatened with being thrown out of school.
I was curious though, would they not have been in the same exams together, given they're twins and at the exact same age, and would have been doing a lot of the same core subjects?
I don't know how it works over there.
I call bullshit.
The announcers were plugging that it was Attitude Era Week on the network. What do you think of that?
I think brilliant. I was going to say garbage.
Okay, so and remember now who we've seen in hour
Okay, can I
two.
just... I need to say something, actually. They constantly, incessantly tell me what is on the live stream. I would never, ever, ever, ever watch the live stream. I will watch what I want, when I want, on demand, as I do with Netflix.
Yeah.
Why are they so fixated on this live stream? This live stream probably costs them... I don't know what... I think that because like broadcasting like a channel, I think it probably costs them a shitload to run, and it's just pointless.
You know,
Most of the time.
the live stream would be good if there was like 2 to 3. Well, I'm being a bit exaggeratory here, but let's just say okay. If there was 2, even on Monday and Tuesday nights, they could advertise and it would sound fresh. If there was 2 first run programs every Monday and Tuesday at night time on the network live stream, they'd have something to say. But there's none. There was Legends House.
There's a main event, I suppose, isn't there?
But they don't
NXT.
even... Yeah, it's just... I don't know.
It's stupid and pointless.
It's no good. So, remember who we had there, guys? We had Adam Rose and Titus, and then we came back to see Zack Ryder in the ring getting ready to be slaughtered by Rusev. This was very, very, very quick. The end of this match after the accolade saw Henry run out and cut a promo, and then Rusev backed down. He said that he was going to be the first inductee in his International Hall of Pain. Backstage, this was really weird. I didn't really hear the dialogue of this. What was Stephanie saying to Hunter?
We came in like mid conversation, and Hunter was trying to talk Stephanie out of doing what she wanted to do, and then Stephanie saying, "No, I really want to do," and Hunter's like, "No, don't get involved," and blah blah blah. And I think it was fairly obvious that it was to do with the Bella stuff, and so they had this kind of like had a kiss and kind of trying to get heel heat out of it. I thought Steph looked awful tonight. I thought she looked like about 500 pounds of fake tan on her face.
Yeah, she in the backstage segment, yes, but for some reason under the lights of the ring, it looked pretty consistent with her neck. But I felt backstage like her head looked completely different
She
colour.
looked almost like Vince at WrestleMania 22. Remember that?
Against Shawn.
Do you remember him in the backstage segment with the rest of the family?
That's incredible though. Like that was like
He looked like the devil.
He was amazing. Vince in 2006 is so underrated.
Yeah.
Like all the God stuff and the church stuff.
I don't like you and you don't like me. Or remember when he did the church and he just spits water like Triple H with the holy water.
Yeah, the McMahon. And
I love the way Shawn, like, he can't curse, but he's fine to do this angle where God comes down the ramp as a spotlight.
I know, it's almost like being a born again Christian on a podcast and being an absolute misogynist who has a porn collection. This segment was just unbelievable. I'm talking about Craig, by the way. This segment was unbelievable. We had Stephanie introduce Nikki Bella and basically say that she was going to give her Divas Championship.
Underwhelming.
Yeah, Divas Championship match. So Brie then came out and started confronting Nikki about, is this the only reason that, you're doing all this stuff? So Nikki said,
This is how I felt watching this and recapping it.
It was pretty tough. So I'm going to try and get through this. I'm going to really do my best here. So Nikki said, no, it's always about you, Brie, and so on and so forth. This then brought out AJ Lee. AJ Lee got into the ring and started basically kind of intimidating Stephanie, or at least trying to. It was pretty hard considering Stephanie was about 3 feet taller than her, wearing high heels, saying that she had yet to invoke her rematch clause for the Divas Championship. This then brought out Paige, who skipped to the ring the exact same as AJ. She said that the one thing missing from this equation was, in fact, the Divas Champion herself. While all this was going on, we had CM Punk chants, which, of course, Stephanie and co probably didn't really appreciate. The crowd really had like pretty little heat for this. They didn't seem interested whatsoever. At the start, they were chanting boring and stuff like that. With the four girls out there just standing in the ring, it seemed very phony. Paige and AJ kind of got into a little bit of a ballyhoo that then just ended up with them standing beside each other because the Bellas started getting into a kind of a ballyhoo together. Nikki proposed to Brie that she would come back on her side and forgive her if Brie quit the WWE. What this had to do with the conversation between Paige and AJ, or Paige, AJ and Stephanie about the title, it just didn't make sense. Brie was about to leave the ring and quit again. That's when the crowd actually started making some noise about it. Then Brie basically pushed Nikki into Paige. They both took a bump. Brie left. Then AJ went to leave with the belt. Stephanie stood in her way and demanded that AJ give the title back. AJ then, after kind of teasing for a while, handed the title back, skipped away, and then Paige's music came on. Paige and Nikki had a stare down from across the ring at one another, and Paige left. The commentators said that they didn't really know what happened. They in fact called it strange, a strange goings on, and they presumed that Nikki was the number one contender. This was
the dirt worst of Impact.
But it's just like for WWE, they never do segments like this that make such little sense. That just don't kind of like. Usually, you kind of feel like you're being spoon-fed the storyline, so they make sure you understand it. This one, I just couldn't like. I didn't know where it was going or what the point of it was. Chris Jericho versus Bray Wyatt, as we said earlier, was announced for a cage match next week. We had Bray Wyatt do a promo. It was very short by Bray standards, which meant that I thought it was pretty good. Hello, Chris. The Usos.
I know all about Sister Abigail.
This was actually an okay thing on the show. The Usos came out. It was going to be Jimmy or whichever one isn't selling the leg against Goldust. They had a little bit of a match before their... What was the finish here? Did Goldust lose clean? Or... Oh, yeah. Goldust got the win after the final cut. And then after the match...
Final cut.
It's kind of like the reverse neckbreaker into a facebuster thing. The swing around thing. Then they had... and the curtain call is the like Scorpion Deadlock position. He lifts them up and brings them forward, right?
Yeah.
And then Charles Dreams is the groin kick, I think. So... After the match, we had Goldust going mad on the one with the injured knee. He gave him a knee drop onto the apron that looked really painful, and then Cody hit him with a chair after a big tease. This chair shot looked absolutely excellent from the angle, and it sounded great. They had so it's basically just solidifying their heel turn. This was fine, but at this stage the crowd was so burnt out from the second hour and the Divas segment, and by that I mean the Stephanie, Bella's, Paige and AJ segment, that there was really not much left they could do. They showed a ad for the third series of Total Divas, which is starting on E this coming Sunday, and the big news of this is that it looks like Rosa Mendez is completely naked in the trailer.
I feel that won't air uncut.
No, I don't think it will. Jerry Lawler is very excited about this because he's a dirty, dirty old man. Finally, we had Big Show backstage with Henry, and Henry said, I want to do this tag team thing, but first I have to get Rusev. Big Show offered to be in Henry's corner, but Henry said he had to do it.
Go get him.
Henry said he had to do it by himself. Big Show then said, respect. I understand, and then started shouting at Mark Henry, put him in the Hall of Pain, put him in the Hall. I don't know if you noticed this, but this happens a lot. Like the stereotypical one that we all know is when you go to the States with an older relative or your parents, that eventually they'll start doing like colloquialisms and start sounding a little bit American when they're speaking to tellers.
I sound very American the second I go to America. Have you ever noticed that about me?
Okay, you kind of have a bit of a twang anyway, but like this was unbelievable. When Henry was going, I can't do it, I gotta look after Rusev first. Like Big Show started speaking black speak. It sounded like he sounded like a gang member. Like it's just like it was incredible. Black speak, excuse me. Cena, Reigns, and Jericho versus Rollins, Kane, and Orton. 12 minutes of entrances. Yep. And
it wasn't a good match.
They built all the way up to this match. This first segment, building up to the main event. You look at the talent in there. You think that they could probably have quite a good match. The story of this match is basically Cena just wasn't getting tagged in. Please God, Ken, take it from here and stop talking about this.
So the whole gimmick was the person who looked most impressive was going to get the shot against Lesnar. So Cena hits his finish on the corporate Kane, tags out, Reigns gets the pin, and then Cena goes over to Triple H, starts banging on about his title shot, which made no sense because he didn't even get the pin. I don't know. It was silly.
Horrific. And that was Monday Night Raw. So we've got 2 weeks till the show?
I don't even know when that show is. I think it's 2 weeks. I think there was a 5-week in between them, so yeah. Podcast.
Okay. Austin had Paul Heyman on again. They had taped an interview the day prior to the recording of the one that aired. The day prior, they decided that it just wasn't working. So this interview was interesting. It wasn't much regurgitation. They actually talked a lot about SummerSlam and so on and so forth. Anything noteworthy out of this for you? Did you enjoy it?
No, and I didn't enjoy when they talked about SummerSlam. I enjoyed when they were just having the banter about the local area traffic and stuff, just because I could listen to Steve and Paul all the live long day. But No, I kind of get. I don't really like listening to Paul pontificate about his current angle.
Yeah, there's also little snippets and stuff here that you got out of the DVD anyway. So
Yeah, there was all the Studio 54 stuff. Now we've heard it on Jericho's show on the DVD and here. You know what I mean?
the most interesting thing was when they were shutting up shop that let there be light, that Heyman was trying to coax Austin basically into agreeing to the Brock match again, which is the most interesting thing from their first podcast at WrestleMania time. He was just basically saying, WrestleMania 32, it's in your home state. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
And Austin kept saying, no, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Austin is not wrestling again.
No, I don't think he'll ever wrestle again.
Jericho had the second part of the Dave Bautista interview that we really enjoyed from last week. I can't remember what Jericho's other interview this week was.
Probably not worth remembering then. I did enjoy the talk of. They discussed the cage match from 2008 that me and you watched with our good friend Brian Donahue.
And we did not know what was going on.
No, and toward the end of the match...
so this was just when they had banned
Blood,
basically.
About 3 months afterward, yeah. And Jericho grabbed like a turnbuckle ring that was hidden kind of at the top of the cage while Batista was standing on the top rope. Jericho started punching Big Dave in the head, and we thought actually at the time, I think, that he was hardweight, which is what they wanted you to think, because they'd actually... between them agreed to that Dave was going to gig and they were going to get a little blood. So Jericho won the match. When they got backstage, Vince was furious and said he knew what they'd done, said he would deal with them the next week. So they go to TV the next week and Vince sits the two of them, the referee who's Mike Chioda, the agent who's Dean Malenko, in a room and basically makes them watch footage over and over again, and has like... He's gotten the production team to like put that magic little circle like you see on Football Analysis around Dave's head where he's gigging, to prove it. And like the thing is, none of them were denying that they'd gigged, but Vince was forcing them through this scenario. So he starts dishing out fines, and I honestly genuinely think that I still find this shocking. He fined Dave Bautista $100,000.
To put that into perspective, like that is in and around what Batista would make for like a SummerSlam payoff. Like that is huge.
And it's just I just found that remarkable. Like I'd say he probably got 300 for WrestleMania, you know? But like that's probably if you're not like. Okay, what was the pay-per-view they'd wrestle on Cyber Sunday? He probably didn't even get that for that, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and not only, the rest of them got kind of a lot smaller fines than Dave, but Dave paid all of their fines too.
Yeah, Jericho got $5,000, Malenko got like 15, and the referee got 5, and Big Dave paid all of their fines. But Dave really sounded soured on wrestling in this interview, I have to say. He really sounded unenthused with the creative process. He hinted at it in his DVD that they released, I don't know if you watched that, Neil. And in other interviews, but he's a sensitive guy, and he didn't appreciate how the people responded to him. He doesn't appreciate that whole let's entertain ourselves and chant for JBL and X-Pac during matches that we're not entertained by. He just doesn't seem to like the modern wrestling fan, and I think we'll get a small run, but that'll be him done.
Yeah, that'll be him done. Very sensitive is exactly the right way to put it. Speaking of JBL, I don't know if you noticed, but at the start of Raw, when Jericho was in the ring before the Authority came out in the highlight reel, JBL was burying Jericho, and it just sounded exactly like Vince. But these guys, I'm not saying they have another Rock on their hands. I am not saying that. But it is very much a diet version. This is going to be a case where they're not going to work with Dave to keep him happy. Dave is going to become a fucking gigantic movie star because of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, because of the Avengers 3, which is going to...
Is he going to be in that? Oh, he's going to be, because Drax will be.
Supposedly that's the big climax of the whole Marvel Universe films, is that the Avengers 3 will be the Avengers plus the Guardians of the Galaxy against the heel from... what's his name? The heel that obviously we only saw for a minute.
Lesnar, was it?
In Guardians of the Galaxy. Dr. Tomato, I think it was. But...
what a name.
but the Hammer. But no, we might see something similar when Vince just realizes that it's actually going to be a lot harder to get Dave to come back. When Dave becomes more known for being a Hollywood star than a wrestler, and the fact that he'll be getting like past his wrestling prime anyway. I think that I think they're idiots if they don't get Dave on side now. Dave could be fucking a gigantic baby face in a while because of this film and his profile.
Perhaps. Yeah.
And so we had on the Observer, actually, do you know what, on MLW Radio they had an interview, the Talking Shop, which is very much like kind of a format where people really go into the in-depth workings of matches and booking. They had Scott D'Amore on it. I want to go out of my way to listen to that. Scott D'Amore's time as TNA booker is very interesting.
Yeah, it was around the time we were there. Yeah,
that's right. It was 2005, 2006, and
That is to say, we visited the show when we weren't working there.
Yeah, well, Ken wasn't. But of course. Now, Observer, nothing much out of the Observer this week that we didn't discuss podcast-wise, because obviously they talk about the news, and we talked about the news earlier on. But they did have one guy from Sherdog on talking about a network
Jack
idea. Encarnacio. Can you go over this?
Yeah, Jack Encarnacio's idea is that you film the creative meetings today of Raw, and then you air them the next day, maybe in chopped up and edited form. And listen, I like Jack Encarnacio. I listened to some of his Sherdog Rewind series. He did a great history piece in the UFC. He did a recap of every single UFC show in history. It was 3-hour shows, and there was about, I don't know, 20 of them over a 2-week period.
Nice.
But but this was going up to the 20th anniversary. But the point is, much as I like him, I don't think the idea was very good. And they discussed it in detail, but it would immediately become worked. And there's the thing of, if you're telling the guy, oh, we're doing this and this will benefit you in the long run, but then in the creative meeting that it's exposed that wasn't really the case. You're already going to have difficulties with wrestlers agreeing to do what you want of them anyway.
For those of you who don't subscribe to the Observer, I'm going to try and make this as clinical and as simple as I can. The thing that separates the Observer apart from every other wrestling journalism is one word, in my opinion, and that is class. Whenever they get criticised, whenever they have to take back a piece of news that they shouldn't have reported, whenever they come under criticism themselves, even though they're in the right, the way they handle themselves, their public personas, their demeanours, the way that they present themselves on Twitter, everything about them, the quality of their shows, it's just nothing compares to them. This was the first time... It's the first time I had ever listened to an Observer show, and I couldn't believe they were entertaining such a geek and such an idea.
And do you know why I think it was? I think it's because Jack Encarnacio probably said, I have this idea I'd like to discuss with you, we should do a show. And Dave said, don't tell me, we'll do a show.
Yep.
And but they talked about the idea for like 70 minutes.
It's incredible. I'm so glad. I was pretty convinced you feel the same I do. It is literally the worst idea I've ever heard, because essentially, if they were to do that, no matter how they edit it, it's all it is WWE literally giving you spoilers for what's happening next. And if it doesn't add up,
that's true. Yeah.
And if it doesn't add up, then the show is worthless, because then you're not getting any information out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Fucking worst idea I'd ever heard in my entire life. Any other interesting podcast? Piper had Mr. Anderson on. I've yet to get to that. Anything else interesting from the world of the podcast?
Just JR saying that people shouldn't be so concerned about your push. I gotta get a push.
People throw around this word push. I don't even think they know what it means. Hell, I don't even know what it means.
You gotta maximize your minutes.
Tell me about who JR had on this week. Who did he have?
Tony Schiavone.
Fuck, I didn't listen to that.
People talked about it. Dave Meltzer said it was a sleeper show, as in, it was better than you might have expected. It was a nothing show. It was just very much kind of the two guys talking about how great the old days were.
Okay.
Schiavone's very honest. He admits he was dreadful toward the end of WCW. He also mentioned that when they were letting Bobby Heenan go, management told him, don't take Bobby's calls. Don't get, so Bobby rang him to discuss what was happening with him, and Tony blanked him off. And so ever since then, Bobby has buried him publicly. And he was very contrite. He said it's totally his fault. But he also said that some of the stuff Bobby said about him is just untrue, which you could believe. So
a lot of people, because of their banter, if you watch Nitro, think that they
always hate each other.
But they didn't, did they?
No.
And that's the reason.
No. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Fucking hell, man.
So, In Your House 6.
Oh, here we go.
This was February of 1990. Oh, it's not 2006. 1996. And it was just in the run up to WrestleMania 12, and you kind of you had that very much built up on this show. We opened with Sonny in a bikini. I remember vividly these kind of shots when I was a kid. It made me feel very funny in my trousers. I didn't know what was going on. I was about 11 at the time, so kind of strange times for me.
Yeah.
Then we had an opening video of
Can I say something about Sonny's bikini bottoms? I could literally see her vulva protruding through these pants. It was the weirdest, fleshiest camel toe I've ever seen in my life. We'll leave it there. Keep going.
Okay. No need for the vulva talk here. I listen to this in the car with my daughter. She's 15 months old,
It's like that Wade Keller thing.
Right.
When, he doesn't let people curse on the Torch audio, because he's just like, I've got plenty of parents who listen to their radio shows, their kids, and it's there, go on.
Listen, the worst is Steve and his fucking, not his Unleashed show, the family friendly one where he says cluster muck and some book. But then sometimes he has interviews in the can that have curses left, right and centre anyway, you know what I mean?
They just air them, it's brilliant.
All right, so we have an open video of Brett, Diesel, and Taker talking about the title picture, which, considering the main event was just Brett versus Diesel,
I know.
this was just a total spoiler.
Yeah.
Lawler and Vince do the introduction. Lawler had an unacceptable mullet here, and he looked older then than he does now.
I don't agree, but I know for a long time in the 90s he looked older than he did in the late 90s/2000s.
He's had a lot of work done, I think, in his face. When you
I actually think you're right.
yeah, and he clearly dyes his hair, but he does for a guy who's in his 60s. He looks well, you know.
You're right.
And has had a heart attack. Okay, we open with Razor Ramon versus Diesel in the Crybaby match. Kid had turned on Razor Ramon in October when he was the special guest referee in a match with Sid, where he joined the $1 Million Corporation. Just a side note on that match, that was originally for the Intercontinental title, and they changed it, which was another very clear kind of incident of the Clique keeping the belts within themselves. If you remember, Sid was going to get the belt from Shawn at SummerSlam. They switched that to the ladder match at Razor. And then they switched it around here as well. So
Sid wouldn't have worked as Intercontinental Champion, in my opinion, either way. But anyway,
yeah,
we know politically where this came
so,
from.
So that happened in October, and yet here we are in February, and they still hadn't had the match. This was back in the days when they try and do that stuff on the house shows and draw with it.
Sure.
So
Can I just ask you really quickly, did you get to have a look at the Observer from around this time, just to have little tidbits that you usually do?
I skimmed it and didn't see much of interest. Did you look at it yourself?
No, I didn't, but that's okay. Carry ahead.
So where were we? So the Kid had cost Razor the Intercontinental Championship at the previous month's Royal Rumble against Goldust by hitting a spinning heel kick off the top rope onto Razor, and that put that belt on Goldust. So where are we here? Sorry about this. So I remember loving these two when they teamed. I thought they were a great babyface team. You always remember the match with Shawn and Diesel.
Well, of course, this is four mates having the absolute bands in the ring.
Great match, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is that even on a DVD? I don't know if it is.
I don't think it is, but they didn't work very well here, man. This was like
this
planned,
match,
but it didn't go to plan.
Yeah. So I thought it was a strange dynamic here. I think Kid was always much better as a babyface. Kid gets the heat by throwing the powder in Razor's face. Someone calls a clothesline spot at one point, but they both think they're the person who's supposed to be throwing it, and they get lost and just kind of bump into each other and just kind of brawl. Did you remember the spot?
Yeah, no, there was
this was the 10,000 car crashes and 7 matches spot of the night. It's weird in hindsight watching stuff like this because the people don't fart on moments like that, whereas now everyone spot it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
so Kid
very
gets
true.
a sleeper and holds it for a long time. Razor hits the sack of shit slam off the top rope. DiBiase kind of distracts Razor. Kid tries to use the powder again, but Razor catches him and boots it in his face. He hits Kid with the Razor's edge. He has the pin, but pulls Kid up. So then he hits it again.
Weird finish. Really weird finish for a babyface because it was kind of like, it was like he was goading DiBiase. Like, for instance, if he had given him the Razor's edge, goaded DiBiase, DiBiase got up on the apron, took a bump, and then maybe they did a tiny little spot that led to a second Razor's edge.
Mm-hmm.
But this was literally just Razor's edge, look at DiBiase, Razor's edge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact he did the pin and picked him up. Is this Scott's last pay-per-view match?
No, he wrestled Vader in April.
Really?
Yeah, they brought him back to do a job to Vader.
I have no recollection of that match.
I think he was wearing all yellow, I want to say. I feel like I really vividly remember it.
Oh,
Pretty
man.
sure he did a clean job. Let me wiki that bad boy. But
Okay.
what did you think of this match and all?
Yeah, this a lot of this show really stinks of desperation from Vince, especially who's obviously the play-by-play commentator. Mm-hmm. He's like trying so hard to get everything over. You can tell the crowd, they're in Louisville as well, the crowd really aren't up to any great shakes at all. They don't seem very into anything. This gimmick itself, the Crybaby gimmick, so the loser match basically gets dressed as a
you talked through this.
The loser match basically gets dressed as a baby. Now perhaps now that I'm thinking about it aloud, that's why they did the two Razor's edges to explain why Kid was lying on the ground so long. So after the match, Razor put a diaper on him that was thankfully just a white towel with Velcro on it. He also put talcum powder all over his face and a bottle. Poured a bottle over him too. They should have put milk in the bottle. There would have been a lot more of a. Oh no, I wouldn't like that. But no, the bottle was just filled with water. When Kid came to, DiBiase told him that he had lost the match. Then poor old Sean Waltman had to pretend to cry, and Vince was doing his usual. I think he's crying. like, you know, like it was very.
And you know what really
It was
sucks about
bad when you think of guys from the Click, like the tag match you mentioned, Ken. Good friends, better enemies. That would happen 3 months down the line with Shawn and Diesel. When you think of the Click having matches together, it almost always was great because that's all they wanted. They trusted each other. They were willing to make each other look great. But the dynamic of the stip, along with the fact, as you said, that Kid was working heel, this was like just no good.
No, it wasn't great.
And Vince thought he was onto something with this stip. He really did.
I know, yeah.
And then at the end, Kid, you actually cry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and but the other thing, I felt Kid was just no good. I felt Kid kind of, I don't want to say he had a poo face on, but he didn't look like he was. I just remember Bobby Heenan in the weasel suit and how that's how you be a clown. That's how you do these situations. But I just thought this was kind of, you could tell Kid really didn't want to do this, and so yeah, it just was kind of stupid.
So do you have that? It is the actual Good Friends Better Enemies show, isn't it? That would have been the
Razor and Vader.
Yeah. So is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
This I gave it 2.5 stars. The match itself. What did you go for yourself, or?
I was about 2 maybe.
Meltzer went 3 at the time.
Good God.
Rougeau and Sonny plugged the Superstar line. Sonny says she will ask Razor to fuck her when he comes out the Superstar line, in almost as many words. Hunter herself, he comes out with a
Wait. Is this not the backstage bit with Jake? It is.
Is Jake there?
Jake appears out of nowhere. He had a dark match with Tatanka, and he's got the snake, and he literally tries to fire the snake's head at Sonny's crotch.
Right, okay. I didn't even spot that, but there you go.
First it's one girl. Then it's 2 girls. The next night it's 2 girls and toys.
You go home trying to make love to your wife. Stay happening. All right. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, known as Trips on this podcast, mostly from Neil, comes out with a local model. Duke the Dumpster Drozy cuts a bad promo. Hunter had cut all his hair off about a month prior, and Duke had gone off and lost a lot of weight. He'd lost about 30 pounds.
He looked good.
Yeah, he did. But yeah, I just kind of thought it was funny because here he is, bitching and moaning, and basically all that happened was he got a better haircut. We keep cutting to ringside during the match to see Lawler and this model, who they gave a name to. I can't even remember her name.
Now and again they did. I don't know why. Maybe it's because, when you look at the quality of women they'd get for Godfather's Hose, maybe when you go into a city that day, you don't really get the pick of the litter. So maybe they actually went to casting agencies.
The pick of the litter, says Neil. Respect for women here.
Maybe when they went to casting agencies, they
asked for someone special.
They asked for someone
the highlight of this match was when we cut to ringside, see Lawler and the model, and Lawler obviously knows the camera's on him to get the monitor, and he kind of leans back as though to kind of check out her ass, and very funny. But
she was on the stick as well. Lawler interviewed her during. They would do this from time to time with Hunter's girls. It was very interesting.
Lawler made a joke here which I find was funny. He said the average age of a trash man is 40. Do you know why? And McMahon said why. And he said because they come straight out of school. Think about it.
Excellent.
Think about it. The best part of this match was Drozy goes outside to get the trash can. He throws the lid over the top rope and into the ring, and he just happens to land square on Hunter's head and roll and spin. And Hunter kind of just wakes up at the cellar and then goes back unconscious, which was funny.
Vince kept referring to the trash can as galvanized as well, which I found very entertaining. For all the talk about Trips being on the Ascension until the curtain call and then having to be the scapegoat because they couldn't punish Shawn, this is like the shit he was up to.
Yeah, I mean
he had this. He had jobbed Warrior. This is all before the
Henry
curtain
Godwin match as well. The slot pen or whatever it's called.
Trips was everyone talks about the story WWE like to tell us that he was slated for the King of the Ring '96, but then they had to punish him. I think maybe for a day or 2 he might have been slated for it, but I don't think Vince really trusted Hunter. And I think the fact that 3 of his buddies had left, and it was only Shawn going to bat for him when Shawn was preoccupied with being the champion. I don't know, man. I think Hunter was in a bad place for a long time, and I don't think it was because of the curtain call.
Right. So yeah, I was sitting there going, why isn't this a disqualification? He's just thrown a piece of metal at his opponent's head. Drozy brings the trash can in, the referee confiscates it, and while it's distracted, Hunter hits Duke with the lid and gets the pin. I found it interesting that the trash can lid, the aluminium galvanized trash can lid's the pin here. I gave this a 1.5 stars. So did Meltzer, actually.
Congrats.
You?
Never mind. Never mind. I couldn't give it anything.
Okay. Yeah, I just felt like I actually went back. I was like, I have to rate these matches, so I went back and rated.
Okay, all right.
They recap the Yokozuna face turn. Doc Hendricks introduces Yokozuna, does his first ever promo in English.
Yeah.
Shockingly enough, he isn't Japanese. He's from California.
He sounds nothing like a Japanese man. It's very exposing.
He cuts a decent promo and says he's going to burn Camp Cornette down.
Vince literally after he walked away from the promo went, wow.
Yeah. I was really sad to watch this because both of these guys are dead, and
oh
god,
god,
kind of a downer.
I'd never thought about that.
Davey, by the way, was still in great shape, but he wasn't anywhere near to what he was at Super Bowl 3 when he was on his quest to be the world championship heavyweight champion of the world.
I'm currently about 18 months after this show, mid 97, watching the Raws. He had bulked down quite a bit in a year and a half. He actually was bigger here than he was in 97. This was no great shakes, as you said, 5 minutes.
Bad match, DQ finish.
DQ finish. What was the DQ? Was Vader running in?
Yeah, and then they handcuff Yoko to the ropes, and Vader and Davey beat him down. I gave this a dud. Meltzer gave it a star.
Now, Vader had debuted when? In January at the Rumble?
Yeah, he debuted the night after the Rumble, and he did all those Vader bombs on Gorilla Monsoon.
Okay, grand. So would Vader yet have a match at this stage?
I believe so, yeah.
Because he looked fucking out of shape.
Yeah, because he had a good run, but a good time off between WCW and WWF.
And was he not in Japan between those two? Did he not do a few tours, or was he
I've actually
injured?
got no idea.
I think he's injured. And I think they bring him in a bit early as well.
Yeah, because they did the whole suspension thing with him, didn't they?
Yeah, and I think Cornette always would run to the defense of Vader when talking about his WWF run, saying that he came in injured. So there you go.
Just trying to look here and see if... No mention of injury in the Observer. Okay. Next is Shawn versus Owen. This was the match that I wanted to watch. I may have watched it once, but I don't know if I'd ever watched this match.
So give the backstory here for Shawn and Owen.
Yeah, they play off Shawn's head injury from the prior November on Raw with the enziguri.
So Shawn had been out from that enziguri on Raw up until when he came back to win the Rumble with his mullet gone. And he actually had like bangs. So the Shawn's entrance here is like a slight precursor to what would happen the next month at WrestleMania. He's dancing on the roof
of the house.
Of the in-your-house house set. And Vince going, okay,
there he is! I've just written down during this entire match. I've always wondered about Vince and Shawn's true relationship, and it really felt watching stuff like this that Vince had a thing for him. And I always think back to the Road Warriors saying they thought that Vince and Shawn were fucking, or no, I think Hawk said he walked in on Shawn sucking Vince off, and
you know, anytime Vince would do an in-ring promo with Shawn, like Vince was always so like laughing and just like
yeah, or when he's cutting the Lost My Smile promo, Vince is genuinely on the verge of tears. I just think there's something funny about that relationship.
So Shawn's on the roof here, and basically he seems like he's just dancing, and it's getting very awkward, and he's running out of moves because he has to stand in the same place.
His one move, by the way.
Yeah, he does. You see him look off to his left and start shouting at somebody, and then inexplicably a few seconds later, pyro goes off. So basically the cue was pyro goes off, and then Shawn, you swing down on a rope like Tarzan. Yeah. So Shawn was standing for a good 30 seconds begging for this pyro to happen, and then of course during Shawn's entrance he ran around the ring. Oh, actually, sorry, this killed me, right? The first spot in the match, okay?
You're killing me, brother.
Shawn is out for blood against the guy who put him out for months. So what do? They lock up. Yep. He shoves Owen down. He runs outside the ring and starts high-fiving everybody really slowly, including Vince, and then runs over and kisses a not-so-attractive broad.
Okay. This wasn't the Special Olympian for being the ring.
No, thankfully not.
We have to review that show just so we can discuss that incident.
We will. Vince at his absolute best on comedy. But like, it was so weird because even Vince was like, oh, it's all about having fun. And then you realise what the feud is about. It's like, but Shawn Michaels can get serious. And then Shawn was literally taking the piss for like the first 10 minutes. Okay,
so there's some really good high spots here. Owen does his belly to belly that I always loved. It's just gorgeous belly to belly, wonderful technique. Hits good spin kick. He gets the sharpshooter, and Shawn makes the ropes. HBK does his big comeback, goes for the super kick. Owen ducks it, tries another enziguri. Shawn ducks that and hits the super kick. Owen put him over like $1 million here. You can always see when somebody's really putting somebody over, and Owen really does here.
Two observations.
Very good match. I thought it was 3 3/4.
I wouldn't go that high with it. Two observations. At the start of the match, Shawn does a crossbody off the second turnbuckle on the apron to Owen, who's standing in the entranceway, and Owen takes the bump so forcefully on the concrete. I thought poor Owen.
I remember that.
The second thing that got me was this fucking crowd, man. they do the Insecurity spot the first time, and it just gets no reaction.
Yeah, I noticed that as
Couldn't
well.
believe it. Couldn't believe that. But overall, it was a good match, and it's what you'd want out of these two guys. And, looking at Owen Hart in the mid-90s a lot recently, I think to myself, was he only ever in shape when he was wearing that black and yellow, the Danger? Because he always had a bit of something
He always
going
had
on.
a little pudding here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Meltzer went 4 stars on that. What do you think of that match?
Yeah, I'd say about 3.25, 3.5.
Okay. It's interesting. You're right. Your ratings almost always seem to be about half or 3/4 down from what they were at the time, which by Meltzer at the time, which I think is probably just indicative. It is hard to really capture the moment again. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. But just even for the crowd reaction with the Insecurity and stuff, I felt that
A bit distressed by that.
even for the time, I wouldn't have gone that high.
Okay. They build a cage while showing a WrestleMania ad, which is basically a review of WrestleMania 11, and it concludes with, "We're taking it one step further. WrestleMania 12!" As though we're supposed to be stunned that 12 comes after 11 here.
And by the way, did that Shawn and Owen... Shawn won the Rumble. Was that Shawn and Owen match? That was for the shot of
Yes,
Brett.
it was. Yeah, he put it up to
So that was the
Owen.
first time that the Rumble
did
had been
that.
put up in February.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which had pretty much become a yearly thing then. wasn't it?
Yeah, and when you think about it now, you always think, oh, the Rumble was sacrosanct for so many years. Like, nope.
No, it really wasn't.
Nope, not at all.
Even 94, the end of the Rumble was...
This is the first time they...
Inconclusive.
Yeah,
And even 95, because of the finish, you could have thought maybe they'll do something the next night, you know what I mean?
I suppose.
Okay, Piper comes out for an interview with Todd Pettingzoo. I really like them saying WWF in hindsight watching this. I've got some notes on this. I'm sure there's stuff you want to say in this, but the line of the night was Piper saying, "I can't be bought. I don't pull punches. I don't think Michael Jackson is innocent. And I ain't afraid of no damn boogeyman." Which was quite the line in hindsight. I agree with him, but I don't know if I would have been saying it on national television. He announces Shawn as the number 1 contender, which obviously he is because he's just won the match to be the number 1 contender. He cuts a promo that I've just written was completely off his rocker about Vader, calling him 520 pounds multiple times. I'm surprised he doesn't say he's Andre the Giant's son. So then Cornette comes out to protest with Clarence Mason because he makes a match between Vader and Yoko. And Piper shouts at them, and Corny just accepts the match. And they're just killing time here, and Piper was just off his rocker. But I just thought that Michael Jackson line, I was like, when you watch like 80s or 90s shows and they're talking about steroids in the computer, you're just like, what? Yeah, this is one of those moments.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. Piper calls Vader inbred, and he also says that he's wearing his jock strap on his head, and he makes a match between Vader and Yoko at WrestleMania that never happens.
Which never happens, yeah.
So was the plan actually to do a one-on-one match, and then they kind of decided to maybe just squash a few matches together, or
Yeah, I guess because of how out of shape Yoko was and Vader
Yeah.
being injured.
that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it?
Mm.
I guess we're on to the main event here.
Yeah. Okay, so Bret versus Diesel. There are very few people who are bigger marks for Bret Hart than me. Are we agreed on that?
Oh, the biggest, I'd say.
Okay, I thought this was terrible. I thought
Good man. Well
this was
done.
just a bad match. I watched it, right? And they had a great King of the Ring match. People don't remember that King of the Ring match very well, but that was really good. The one in 94?
Yeah. Their Survivor Series match is obviously the one people do remember
Yeah,
with
and
the
the thing
rope.
is, they built the King of the Ring match around Diesel as a heel, and the No Holds Barred match, you had the bells and whistles, but Bret was kind of the babyface as well. They kind of played more for sympathy for him. But then they had the babyface match at the Royal Rumble in 95, and they had this match, and the Rumble one wasn't great, but they had a lot of run-ins. But this was just, I mean, they had it was like they had nothing planned. It's like, the way you always hear Bret in interviews and read his book talk about the thoughts he had coming into a match.
Oh, he would when he knew he had a pay-per-view coming up, obviously he had the advantage of there being fewer pay-per-views. But when Bret had a pay-per-view coming up, he would do his very best to focus on that match.
And I think what happened here, and I did read bits of the Observer in it, and now I'm thinking about it, and Meltzer mentioned how unenthused he himself, Meltzer, was about the booking, because Bret, his victory when he won the championship was very much kind of like almost like a snippet of Banana Peel. Diesel felt sorry for him. He got the roll up, won the title, right?
Yeah.
Then he goes and he has that 5-star match with Davey Boy in December. Fantastic match. But then he wrestles Taker with the gimmick being he's beaten and Diesel saves him. And then he wrestles Diesel here with the gimmick being Diesel hasn't beaten and Taker saves him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember thinking that very strongly at the time because, I was a huge Bret Hart fan. I was just like, even then, I was like, why are they making...
So when people look back to when Bret lost the belt to Shawn the next month,
They were
and
very weak already.
and there was like a question mark about, you know, he was obviously, that's when he talked to WCW when they brought him back at Survivor Series 96. They played off the fact that he decided to stay with WWF. Was part of his reasoning to go because his last run with the belt was very underwhelming.
I don't know, but I do know that yeah, if you even in his interviews on DVDs, he mentions he was really pissed off because he had a lot of matches on house shows. They started doing triangle matches around this time and stuff, but he felt he was putting in some really good work. He felt that he really cemented his legacy in the sense of obviously the Survivor Series match is considered, you know, probably the best match Diesel ever had. The Davey Boy Smith one in Hershey.
What's the name of that show?
What?
What was the name of that show?
That was In Your House. No, it was just In Your House 5.
Okay.
That was before Good Friends, Better Enemies.
That's one with the juice.
That's In Your House 5, yeah.
It's great.
That match, which yeah, again, I think is a better match and not even close than the SummerSlam match, but obviously because of where it is. Yeah, I mean, I think it got like 4 3/4 in the Observer at the time as well.
Oh no, it's a fantastic match. I just don't think it's the spectacle.
Yeah, that's fair, but you know, like I said, but
you just feel it's a better match.
Brett felt that he was doing some of his best work in the ring here, but the booking was all built to make Shawn, and you can't deny that it really was. It was very, very Shawn heavy, all the booking.
Oh,
and,
yeah. You can't deny it.
This was something, when I was watching Reigns and watching him getting little reaction on Raw, I just thought to myself, after Hulk Hogan, every time this company gets behind a guy and a year out makes it known this is going to be our guy. So you're looking at Luger, you're looking at Shawn, you're looking at Diesel, you're looking at Cena, not necessarily Big Dave, but whenever they make it really apparent this is our guy and you know it and you see it coming, there's always a backlash, and it was starting here because you know you could see Brett was getting downplayed, Shawn was getting the big push, and when Shawn got the belt, you know, he didn't really do big numbers, and by the end of the year they were scrambling to get Brett back, and the original plan was to go with Brett winning the title at WrestleMania 13. Do you know what I mean?
Well, he actually did better numbers than 95, but it was in comparison to WCW he did bad numbers.
Yeah.
So give him a little bit there.
Yeah. And but anyway, so yeah, but the point being that for all the talk of that, you know, this just wasn't a good match. I thought it was about a star and a half. It was just tedious. The finish was Taker coming through the ring to pull Diesel to the floor, which you think about it, he could have won the match there, but Brett just climbed over the top. It was just total, like, Brett was like the chicken shit heel champion.
Yeah, the finish was really wacky.
I loved it at the time.
Me too.
Yeah,
first time I'd seen it.
Like, oh my god!
But like you look at it now, like when Diesel came, the fact that Diesel came back up and he had like, you know, a portion of his tights pulled off and stuff. What was Taker doing to him down there?
I don't know. Probably had a scissors. But you know, when I mentioned about I seen it earlier on, but Vince always, when guys got to be in their late 30s, and we'll see if this happens with Cena, really tried to put them out to pasture. You remember Hogan, remember Savage.
Oh, yeah.
And this very much felt like it was Vince, you know, saying, okay, Brett, you're yesterday's news. And it's just interesting because by the end of the year, he was desperate to have him back, you know. Yeah.
And that was also because, obviously, of WCW. Like, people might say it was the Shawn experiment not working, but they were under a tremendous amount of pressure. And I think Vince was very nervous with the idea that Brett could be going to WCW as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Brett was missed while he was gone, for sure. But for 1995-96, Bret Hart, this is an anomaly of a match, a pay-per-view performance that is just completely uninspired. Overall, this show is it's extremely missable, isn't it, Ken? And you know, a lot of times those February shows are good because things are getting hot for Mania, but this one not so much.
No, poor show.
Okay, so that's pretty much it from us for this week. We'll be back with our MMA segment on 103.2 FM this coming Sunday at 4 o'clock. We'll also be talking pro wrestling and getting into the Night of Champions mode. This time next week, the show will air on the 10th. And on behalf of myself and Ken, we'd like to thank you all for listening. And until next week, this has been This Ain't Fake, Brother.